Right. Well, okay, so now I have another question. It might be a stupid question and it might be out of your league because you're not a medical professional, but you know way more about this than I do. What does marijuana or pot or cannabis, I guess the proper word cannabis, what does it do to your body? Like what happens
Funny, I
when
was just thinking the same thing.
uses it?
Okay. So I get right. I'm not a doctor, but I've certainly interviewed doctors, scientists. The studies I live it. And so it's going to be different for everybody. The first thing you need to know is that in our bodies, there's what's called the cannabinoid system. We have a cannabinoid system in our body that has receptors that are ready to take CBD and THC, the basic elements in the cannabis plant. CBD is non-psychoactive. That's the element of the plant that can help with pain and other healing aspects. THC is the psychoactive element where you're going to get that head high. And now there are many different strains and terpenes and flavonoids and cannabinoids and CBGN and all of these other forms within the plant that help specific things. There's something called the entourage effect, the orchestra effect, where it is believed by many of the experts in this field that you should use some form of cannabis that has a little THC and CBD. There's different ratios. I'll give you a great example. My wife is a perfect example. She doesn't drink. She's never used drugs. And for the longest time, she was using something called ZzzQuil. I don't know if you're familiar with NyQuil.
Yeah, ZzzQuil.
Yeah.
They made something called ZzzQuil, which is
night,
to help you sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she was using it. I was worried. I'm like, I don't think that's good to use it like every night. She was having a hard time sleeping. And I asked the doctor, and the doctor, yeah, you can't, that's going to hurt your liver. That's going to do this to you. It's going to do all sorts of things to you. And that's an over-the-counter deal you can get right at any pharmacy.
Mhm.
And so I said, look, why don't you try some gummies? Why don't you try some form of THC with CBD? We'll figure it out. And the problem with going through this process is because the United States is lacking on proper research where, you take an Advil, you weigh this much, take these two. That doesn't exist right now for cannabis because it's federally illegal forever. And that's why when you go look at studies that Israel has done and the other countries have done for 30, 50 years, we can get some information. But we're left with, okay, try this, try that. And you kind of just have to figure it out took a month for her to figure out these specific gummies, 1.5 tablets, which was 12.5 milligrams. And it had a 2-to-1 ratio of CBD to THC. She started using it, slept like a charm, and the great side effect of an increased sex drive, which, if you read a book called The CBD Bible by Dr. Danny Gordon, there's a chapter in there, CBD and sex. Forget Viagra, forget all that stuff. The medicinal properties in CBD, I can't, intelligently speak like a doctor would, but I know so much. I've interviewed the parents who have left states, cannabis refugees, we call them, and they go to Colorado to get the medicinal cannabis for their kid who has epilepsy and 300 seizures a day. And then they give it to him, and then now no more seizures. And, on and on and on with the anecdotal evidence and the stories and the interviews I've done over the last 5 years with people who have been cured of cancer. You're not supposed to use that word, cured, and cannabis in the same breath. The FDA will jump all over you. But I've seen it. I've seen cancer go away in patients. And, just knowing that and telling people, look, you got to do your own research right now. And that's usually what happens. People who never used it are against it. Now somebody in their family, something's happened, cancer, a kid, something, nothing's worked. The doctors have tried everything. So try cannabis. I don't know. Okay. And then it's a last resort that, oh my God. And we're trying to change that. It should be a first resort. It's not, like the president says, a gateway drug into anything. It's an exit drug. And I know many, many drug addicts who have gone off all the hard drugs by using cannabis and not the other crap that they try to put you on that gets you addicted to that and all the other problems it causes. And there's so much of the anecdotal evidence out there that it still boggles the mind for me that we're still at a place where your doctor has to go, use cannabis. I mean, we hear that all the time. They turn off the computers and everything else. Why don't you? I can't say this to you, because they're listening. But you do have great doctors that they discontinued their associations with insurance companies and gutted their practices because they're no longer going to give opiates to people and keep feeding that frenzy and all of that starts with the big pharma.
Yeah, it's hard for me to control myself when I start talking about this stuff. I get so angry at I always say we're doing everything wrong. We're just doing so much wrong, and it's all controlled by money.